the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get to Henry's at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856. Soul food, Henry's soul food. What we need? Soul food, Henry's soul food.
Welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show, brought to you by Golden Crust Bakery, the fastest growing Caribbean-owned franchise in the United States. Golden Crust is committed to the delivery of quality food and excellent customer service. Visit them today at goldencrustbakery.com.
Video game controller down for a second.
I can talk and play. I'm totally annihilating this punk kid in Nebraska.
I just feel like you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Oh, they're bleeding over. They're bleeding over. Bleeding over in my time. Bleeding over in my time. It's my time. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us. Alex, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful, Armstrong. How are you doing today?
It takes 12 years.
What is going on?
It takes about the same time.
Diedrich, what is going on, man?
The difference between
what
a child
is this?
becoming one or the other could be you.
What are these commercials playing and we're
Studies prove
live?
Reading to a child regularly
What is going on,
dramatically
Alex?
improves reading
I have
skills.
no idea.
What is
And
going
kids who
on?
read
This is a
well
live
by
show and these
third
commercials
grade
are feeding
4
over.
times as likely
Never
to
heard these
graduate.
commercials before.
Come
So
on,
United
come
Way
on.
is calling for
This
1
is a
million
professional
volunteers
broadcast.
over
You're
the
killing
next
us.
3 years. We're asking you to step up. Make a pledge. Tutor a child who needs help. Mentor a kid who needs someone on their side. Volunteer to read to children. Make a difference.
This is
Because
unbelievable.
when a child advances, we
What
all
is the
advance.
problem?
Entire communities improve. The path to success or failure starts long before graduation day, and the difference between a graduate and a dropout could be you. Be a reader, tutor, or mentor. Give.
At least let's
advocate,
talk. I mean, this
volunteer,
is
Live
outrageous.
United. Take the pledge. Go to
Said he can't hear me.
liveunited.org now. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
What do you mean you can't hear
Hey,
me?
Billy.
Yeah?
Do you want to go to the state fair?
Yeah.
Do you want to ride the roller coaster?
What do you mean they can't hear me?
The big one?
Yeah.
The one with the reverse flip?
Yeah.
Well, you can't. You see, Billy,
We're
when you
fine
throw
here. I
away
can
money
tell.
on
We're
wasted
up.
electricity, you throw away everything you could have done with it, including going to the state fair.
Oh, man.
The mics are up.
Cheer up.
We're talking to
This
Mike.
year
You
your
can see
parents
it.
will make it right. They're going to visit Energy...
Hello? George? Obviously, whatever it was that's happened on their end, and they stopped these crazy commercials. Hello, everybody. I hope we're live. I hope that's the case. Milo, are you on there? Same. Just talk to me while they figure out what's going on. Hello, George?
Yes, sir.
Oh, somebody figured out what the problem was. We apologize for that, okay?
That's okay.
So how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Armstrong?
Well, you don't really want to know, so let's just go on with the broadcast, okay? So, Alex, tell us about what we're here to talk about.
Well, today, Mr. Landrith would like to talk to us about Hansky Walker and the Wisconsin.
Why don't you tell us about this casino, George?
Sure. Well, what's interesting to me about it is part of it's just the casino angle, but I'm just really kind of interested in looking at a story where a politician, rather than kind of setting himself up to be in a position that essentially have people lobby him and hand him money and favors, sets out a clear criteria and says, I don't want to participate in that process. What I want is some clear criteria that people can meet or not meet, and I don't want to be lobbied and play that old political game. So he basically said, if we're going to build new casinos in Wisconsin, it has to pass a 3-part test. Pretty simple, which was the Indian tribes, who are the only people who can do the casinos in Wisconsin, have to agree to it. The locality or the community where it would be placed would have to agree to it. And finally, that there would be no net increase in gaming, which is making sure that the public of Wisconsin, who's already voted in a referendum to say they didn't want an increase, that their wishes are abided by. And I thought to myself, wow, a politician who's doing something that's reasonable and rational, and he hasn't set himself up to say, listen, come meet with me, promise me things, help me get reelected, help my friends get reelected, and I'll see it your way. Instead, he creates a very, I think, defensible, rational policy and says, let's just do it this way and let's not play the old-fashioned game of politics. And to me, that's like headline news. When was the last time you saw somebody do that?
Milo?
Well, it's not frequently done, but it is refreshing to see.
Right. I mean, that's what I kind of liked about it, was just that side of things. It's, for some people, they may or may not care about gambling in Wisconsin, but I do think it's interesting that you have a principled leader who's decided to find a solution that's based in principled reasons, that asks local community to be involved in making the decisions, and essentially makes other people the decision maker, instead of making himself a decision maker. And so much in Congress is done the other way. That's why our tax code's so complicated, because then we want to go to Congress and ask for their help and their favors to help us, relieve some burden that we feel either in the regulatory regime or the tax regime. But it's always about they're important because they can give us favors. And here you have a governor who's saying, I'm not doing that anymore. That's not how we're going to do things in my administration. So I admire that.
But isn't that ultimately the responsibility of the governor to be that leadership, not throw it back on the table? I mean, I'm playing both sides of the table.
No, I think you make a good point. I think he's playing the leadership role by creating a standard that's fair. And that's because before, the way it used to work, first of all, you have to get the federal approval from the Department of the Interior, and then after that, it goes to the governor. And in the past, the way it was done was the governor just kind of let people lobby him. Here, he's announced in advance, this is the way we'll do it. We're going to have the Indian tribes that are affected will agree. The local community will agree. If that doesn't happen, then we don't move forward. And then finally, the other test that I will apply is I will require that there be no net increase in casino gambling in the state, because we've had a referendum and the state overwhelmingly said they didn't want more. So he's still saying, I'll make the decision, but he's effectively made it clear what it is, and it's not open to people playing a lot of political games and handing out favors and things to get it, which to me is unusual. But I think he's still leading. But you make a good point, because I may have made it sound like he was punting, and he's not at all punting. He understands that it's ultimately it requires his approval or lack of approval, but he's given us clear standards rather than doing the what you might call nebulous thing of, well, let's see how it looks. I'll look at all the factors and I'll let you know how I feel. And then what that really means is there are no standards, and it's just who promises me the most stuff.
And the other issue that seems to play a significant role in this discussion is the geographic proximity of the intended casino and the tribe's property.
Right.
And that this is not on reservation. This is 200 miles from reservation.
You make a very good point, because historically they were supposed to be either on or very close to the reservation. And you're right, this one's about 200 miles away, which, unless you've got some kind of a crazy fast sports car, is at least a 3 or more hour drive.
Right. So, it begs to question whether or not this isn't just free enterprise that's being orchestrated under the umbrella of the Indian Act, and then should the unions be excluded from participation in it, since that state, rightly or wrongly, is a union state. So I think there are elements to this to the overall argument from both sides that make it less than a slam dunk for either side.
Well, like all issues, you're right. It's complicated, and I wouldn't disagree with that. But I think that when you look at this issue, they have in their state 24 casinos. That's more than Illinois, Michigan, Iowa, and Minnesota. And yet it's a smaller state than a number of those. And on top of that, you have a statewide referendum, which the public has made it pretty clear. We don't want an expansion. We're not saying we want to shut anybody down, but we don't want more. And I'm pretty pro free enterprise, but I think historically casinos and gambling have been, for a variety of reasons, regulated activity, and it seems to me the public saying, we don't want a lot more of those going on. So I'm not sure I feel bad that this issue exists, because I don't know that we need a casino on every street corner, and the public seems disinclined towards that at any rate. And in that state, quite frankly, the only casinos they have are Indian casinos.
Right.
So they don't have any kind of free enterprise. It's not Atlantic City, and it's not Las Vegas. So
and the Indian casinos have always been structured with a social agenda to provide enhanced education on reservation and to provide jobs in close proximity to the reservation, to combat issues that had historically affected the Indian tribes: alcoholism, substance abuse, domestic violence. And the casinos were historically argued that by bringing these casinos onto the reservations, it brought external resources to the reservation and enhanced the quality of life on reservation. So opening a casino that's 200 plus miles away from your reservation has a hard argument to say that you're supporting these initiatives.
Right.
Hold up, George Milo, hold the point. We're coming back. We're going to break. This is Armstrong Williams. Don't go away.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Cross's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean, only at a Golden Cross near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrossBakery.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. What does it mean to be conservative? Freedom of speech, freedom of free enterprise, freedom of assembly, less government, less taxes. As a matter of fact, a flat tax. Everyone should pay proportional tax. It doesn't matter whether you make 100 million or 10,000. Everyone should pay their 10%. Everyone should have something at stake in this American economy. I'm Armstrong Williams, expressing what we mean by conservative traditional value.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back to the broadcast, and thank you so much for joining us and our guests for this special edition of the Armstrong Williams Show, George Landrith and Milo Pinckney. People on these reservations and a majority of these people living opened these casinos to pursue full-time gaming operations, and so the proceeds from these operations certainly have provided unprecedented income and certainly attendant benefits, and so it's an enterprise that has allowed these tribes to provide jobs and numerous services and local benefits that would otherwise be unaffordable. And I think this is what get lost sometimes in this debate. And while the benefits may be seen to outweigh the negative impacts, we have to note the hidden impacts that are also present in these situations, and there are those. Obviously, this doesn't always turn out well for these Native Americans. Oftentimes, they're exploited, they're taken advantage of, and what they expect for these casinos is not always the outcome. George.
Well, that's correct. I mean, there's a mixed bag there. Certainly somebody's profiting from them, but it's not clear that rank and file Native Americans are always the beneficiaries. And as you correctly mentioned, there are societal costs of having casinos around. I mean, there's just there's no denying that. I understand there's money changing hands and commerce is going on and things like that, but there are downsides as well. Ultimately, while I have my opinion on those issues, and I totally understand them and sympathetic to that, it's that kind of, to me, that ship is left, so to speak, meaning there's 24 there, and so now the question is how do you deal with proposed additional ones? But I agree with you that the reality is that's probably why Governor Walker included as one of his criteria the local community needs to agree to it, because there are these societal costs, and some local communities might say, hey, listen, we're fine if Indian reservations want to have a casino, but we don't want it in our backyard in our neighborhood because it's not what we want for our families and so forth. And I think it's right that people have that. I know I love where I live, and I'm glad I'm not living next door to a casino.
But my issue is that, which is a much deeper concern, is not nearly as conspicuous as far as I'm concerned, is rarely voiced. Many of the participants, Milo and George, in Indian gaming are the natives themselves. It would seem that the expenditure of what little funds are available to tribal members should be spent on gaming, and yet these distributions to individual tribal members and time spent gaming in many ways replace traditional social activities, and many of these people's values could be replaced with materialism, this domestic abuse, the public corruption, are companions to gaming, which many people don't want to talk about. And there may be a awakening of tribal culture and tribal values. I mean, there are so many things that are compromised that are just gradually lost through this.
You make an excellent point there. One of the things that is interesting about this is I think we historically think of people coming on vacation or going there from the outside to participate in the gaming, and maybe they've budgeted a certain amount that they're going to game on, and they're not going to necessarily lose their house because they've made a bad choice. But as you described, in many cases, it may be locals, the very people who supposedly this institution is supposed to be helping, who end up, participating. And mathematically speaking, it's not going to help them. Mathematically speaking, the slots are designed to, pay out a few percentage points less than they bring in. So mathematically, you're going to lose, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I agree. I don't quite understand if you're trying to, the stated objective of the casinos is to help the Native American population. I, for the life of me, don't understand why this was picked as the vehicle. It seems like an awfully strange vehicle to help someone. I know that if
I think the governor's action actually evidences your hypothesis there, because if I've read some of the articles about this over this casino plan, and there's a lot of sub-deals in the background that don't seem to be widely discussed in the media. I mean, there was a bipartisan gathering of casino tribe leaders relative to the casino. And they met with state lawmakers, and they cut deals between tribes and between casino operators within the state to share some of the slot machine revenue being produced by this deal. This is just commerce, and if it's just commerce, it needs to be administered outside of the Indian Powers Act, so that it's not corrupted. And I think what the governor has done here is slow the roll a little bit, as it were, and provide a vehicle for some light to shine on some of these subtext issues that seem to be popping.
You make a good point, because you're exactly right. Some of these backroom deals in the past have included arrangements where essentially different groups agreed to give revenue to somebody. They essentially get them to sign off and say, "Yeah, I'll go along with that."
Right. I mean, this particular one.
Pardon me?
This particular one had a proposal in place, which was documented in the form of a letter, which said that the Potawatomi tribe could lease some of the slot machines to the Menominee Casino, which would result in the Potawatomis receiving about a third of the net gaming revenue produced by the Kenosha Casino. That letter was released publicly.
Right.
By Craig Korn, who was the Menominee chairman, and he apparently leaked it. It was a letter that he wrote to Gus Frank, and it was leaked publicly, which made people start paying attention. And these types of transactions aren't serving the agenda that the vehicle was created to support.
Oh, I think that's exactly true, and I think that's part of the wisdom of Governor Walker's approach. And I think it's courageous from a political perspective, because so often politicians like solutions that encourage people to come to them and essentially make deals and offer them things in traditional, what we think of in terms of lobbying. But also, I think he's taken into account some of the issues that you've just raised in the criteria he created, so as to put an end to that old practice of that sort of gamesmanship, where the Indian, the historical kind of Department of Interior, Bureau of Indian Affairs approach to gambling somehow gets corrupted and becomes, big business trying to create gambling opportunities under the auspices of Native Americans, et cetera, et cetera. And so to me, this is, when you look at what the governor's done, it's kind of, I think, wise and courageous, and I think it's the right policy. And yet, at the same time, someone who says they're highly in favor of casino gambling, he hasn't said you can't do it at all. He's said, if you're there, you can do it, but we've had a state referendum, and the public has said we don't want more, and so I'm not going to have any more. And so to me, it's an interesting balance that he's found. But it's not sometimes compromise or balances or things like this are found through trying to avoid issues. And it seems to me he's tackled them head on and done a good job providing good leadership.
Are there
At least
models?
that's my take on it.
Are there models on these reservations where it really worked, and it's a model that all others should follow?
Oh yeah, Connecticut. The tribe up in Connecticut is probably one of the most successful
And why does Connecticut work? I actually have gone to that casino. It's been a few days. What is different?
I think one, they spent a good number of years planning. They sought guidance and direction from Steve Wynn, and who's one of the best casino operators in the country. They put together a very tight, well-run organization. They required their leadership to go and work in other casinos in different parts of the country to gain experience prior to opening their doors. And then they monitor it very, very tightly.
Well,
is this one working and doing what its stated purpose is? Is it specifically benefiting?
Yeah. It's on the reservation in northern Connecticut.
Okay.
I believe don't hold me to the number, but it's been a couple of years, but a significant percentage of its surplus revenue and reserves is dedicated and solely committed to improved education and health care on the reservation.
And I'm just curious, do they have a program that allows, for example, for higher education and scholarships and those kinds of things as well?
Oh yeah, their students are actually building a university on campus. They already have a significant interest in one of the international medical schools, and their students, their tribe members, go to university at no charge, completely funded by the casino.
Well, and I think that's the model that perhaps when this whole program started that people were hoping for. I just think too often that hasn't turned out to be the case.
Well, that is true. Hold the point. We're coming back. We're going to switch topics here on the Armstrong M Show. Milo Pinckney, George Landrith. We'll be back.
Hi, Mike Reagan here. The president has just delayed his Obamacare employee mandate for 1 year. But nothing has changed. The Congressional Budget Office still predicts 7 million Americans will lose their current insurance, and thousands of rules are being implemented today. Obamacare is over 20,000 pages, almost 3 times longer than the whole IRS tax code. Worse, the IRS is now in charge of enforcing the law. You need to protect yourself, your family, and your business with the easy-to-read guide. It's called the Obamacare Survival Guide. Already a #1 New York Times bestseller, Newsmax calls it the best guide to the new law. Get the Obamacare Survival Guide today at bookstores everywhere, or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 off the cover price by going now to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Elder chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
So, gentlemen, the government is still shut down. Everything still seems to be functioning, except a few glitches. Your thoughts on the government shutdown, George?
Well, I don't think there's any question you used the word dysfunctional. I think that's, Washington has been dysfunctional for a long time, not just the shutdown. You don't have a budget passed for years. For the last 4 years, we've operated basically on a continuing resolution. So the whole thing's a little nutty, is my point. And, what I find curious is that, the president today had a press conference which he essentially, blamed the Republicans, and yet last night he said he wouldn't negotiate on anything. So even the idea that Congress should not receive special treatment when it comes to Obamacare, that they should be treated just like the rest of America. So, I just look at this whole thing and say, what you have now is, to me, the logical extension of what happened when they, meaning Congress, ran through Obamacare, used a bunch of chicanery once Scott Brown was elected, and they realized they didn't have enough votes in the Senate to solve the problem, so they did things kind of reverse and played some weird things, in terms of procedure, rammed it through, got it done, and then created this very kind of toxic situation. And then now we won't even discuss it. And the whole idea that because something's the law of the land, first of all, nothing's ever permanently the law of the land. No Congress can bind a future Congress. So I don't understand. I mean, when the president was elected, he immediately shut down the plans to build a missile defense system in Europe. I could have said, well, that's the law of the land. The previous president agreed to do that. He signed agreements and talked with our allies in Europe, and they're doing it. He can't not do that. And the answer is, well, yes, he can. And he did. And I think it was bad policy, but it's not a serious argument to say it's the law of the land. So I'm puzzled on both sides just by kind of how this has gone. And in all honesty, to me, the real issue is when the media generally blames one party or the other without kind of fairly attributing blame, it doesn't give people involved an incentive to avoid it. To me, it's pretty clear that the president and his allies wanted a shutdown. This is something they were aiming for. And the only reason they do it is because they view it as, well, the media will blame the Republicans, and so this is a good day for us. If the media were being fair, they'd tell the whole story, and it would be a pox on both houses, and the president would share in his part of the problem. But as I see it, he views it as entirely a win. So I view it as kind of unfortunate, but I also view it as an indictment of the press, and just how toxic things have become in Washington of late.
Milo?
Well, philosophically, I agree with much of everything said, excluding, I think it's more an indictment of the dysfunction of Washington and the fact that we have, it's almost laughable calling these guys leaders, but that we have leaders who are more interested in political posturing and partisanship than actually solving the issues that are plaguing our nation. I don't believe that, and no one will ever confuse me with being an Obama supporter, but I don't believe that the President of the United States desired to see a shutdown. I think, and as I said yesterday, Armstrong, for the first time in my adult life, I'm actually embarrassed to be aligned with the Republican Party because I think our party has behaved in such a poor and deplorable manner that the president was put into a position where the only thing he could do was take a hard line and say, hey, look, enough's enough. No. I believe that the law was passed, rightly or wrongly. I'm not a supporter of Obamacare, but the law was passed, and it should be the law of the land. And we have a process for appealing laws, and that's the process that should be implemented here. I agree with the illustration where we withdrew withdrew from our national agreement with respect to the military placements in Europe, the missile bases in Europe, and that should not have occurred, because if our word is only as good as the last president in office, then why should anybody enter into agreements with us? Because basically what we're saying is this is an agreement for 4 to 8 years. So I have some mixed feelings about all of this.
I don't know why the Republicans could not have shown patience. This plan, this Affordable Care, is going to self-destruct. There are already glitches today with the first layout of implementation. Obviously, the premiums are going to soar. I mean, the people have just been flatly lied to and manipulated. And why they couldn't just be patient for 6 more months to let Affordable Care just tank and collapse on its own way. That's the part I don't understand, George, because it can't work.
Well, I think that's an interesting point, because a lot of this on the Republican side, which is somewhat frustrating, is this kind of arguing over tactics. They agree on the overall goals, but you have this disagreement on tactics. And I think it's fine to disagree on tactics. We can all, whether it's football or whether it's politics, we can all agree on the best way to exploit the situation, the weaknesses of our opponent, and end up with a victory. But I have to say, it's probably not that helpful when disagreements on tactics become something where we end up calling each other names and it gets really ugly, which I think it's kind of become the last few weeks. That part troubles me, because ultimately I think Reagan was right. The guy who disagrees with me on something doesn't become my enemy, particularly when he agrees with me almost all the time. It's just kind of odd. But the other thing that I find frustrating about this is, in general, I think that the most recent position the Republicans took, which is, okay, then Congress won't be, that was actually incredibly reasonable, in my opinion, because the president didn't actually have the right or the authority to say the law covered, that Congress gets a special set aside and all that. That's not in there anywhere. They just did that. It's a little bit like how he just out of hand dismissed it for people he likes and other things. So anyhow, it's I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think it's a little bit odd that to me, the leader of a president, when he could easily take a hard stand on the early issues, like whether or not you're going to have Obamacare for a year or those kinds of things, or defunding it. But on this one, he should have said, absolutely, Congress should be ruled the same law as we are. It's a bipartisan issue. He would have come off looking good, and I think he would have looked big. Instead, he just stands back and just either says no or doesn't get involved. He's very aloof. I've never seen a president so not involved on anything, and I don't quite understand it, because part of leading is rolling up your sleeves and figuring out how to solve problems. And instead, he seems willing to kind of let Harry Reid run interference for him, and then in the end act like he's above it all. And not too many presidents did that. I mean, Clinton didn't do that. Reagan didn't do that. They got involved. They rolled their sleeves. There were government shutdowns in both of their eras with adverse Congresses. I've never quite seen it's almost like he's the president of a foreign country commenting on what's happening in America.
He's an absentee president, is what he has been. I just, it's baffling. I don't think the president acted on any kind of principle in this negotiating this debt ceiling. Obviously, the president likes to demonize Republicans and make them out to be the enemy. But the good thing about the American people, all of them will be blamed for this process. Milo, when do you think it's reasonable that they will settle this matter?
Armstrong, if you recall last week, I didn't really think they would go ahead and do it.
I did, unequivocally.
I thought an 11th hour,
Oh, no.
epiphany was going to come through, and somebody was actually going to implement some thought. I was proven wrong on that one. So I'm not sticking my foot in my mouth. I don't have a projection.
By the end of the week. By the end of the week.
By the end of the week, yeah, that's possibly reasonable. But I think the real issue that needs to be addressed now, and I hold the American people greatly responsible for it, because we've permitted this type of debauchery to occur. We've elected these officials, and we've demonstrated our tolerance for this foolishness. And there needs to be a serious call to start cleaning house and replacing these clowns.
But the American people, they like their member. They just don't like everybody else's.
That's the age-old problem. Is everyone hates Congress, but they seem to love their own member, and almost everyone in America feels that way. So we send the same people back year after year.
Mm-hmm. And that is the problem. And I'm not sure if they were to just kick all the bums out, that it would be any better. They've kicked them out before. There have been seat changes in Congress. It hasn't gotten any better. It hasn't at all.
That's a fair point. I mean, if you look back in 1994, when there was supposedly a huge turnover in Congress, the reality was it was almost exclusively open seats changing hands. Very few incumbents lost. I think one of them that lost was the former speaker, and he lost because he essentially sued his own voters, telling them they didn't have the right to pass.
Hold there, George. Hold there, Milo. We're going to come back to another topic, another side of this break. 1-866-620-6620. Info at rightsidewire.com. We'll be back.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Cross's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean. Only at a Golden Cross near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrossBakery.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sports shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
You know, I think that former President George Bush is one of the finest examples of what a president should be. The example, continue to uphold the integrity and the honor of the office. It's a fine example I've seen in a long time of any president. You know, it just baffles me that former President Clinton, who was on this week with his former aide Stephanopoulos, kept making these assertions that Ted Cruz was not telling the truth. He made false assertions, and Stephanopoulos never, ever, ever asked him what the false assertions was and what the false claims were. Clinton made these accusations against Cruz while explaining to Stephanopoulos why he thinks President Barack Obama and the Senate Democrats should not give in to congressional Republicans on the question of delaying Obamacare. And so he claims it's the House Republicans and the Tea Party saying we don't want to negotiate with the Democrats and want to dictate over the Senate, which is, I just think it's outrageous. Why is he this pit bull, and why is it that he has credibility in all this? Obviously, he's in the tank with the president. He has no credibility on these issues. George?
Well, I think you're right on that. I mean, I'm puzzled. One of the things I thought that it was interesting, and even perhaps frustrating at times, was when President Bush was being criticized and blamed for everything under the sun. Sometime he was, out in the public, and a person put a microphone in his face and said, "What do you think of that?" And he just refused to get involved. Part of me said, "Wow, that takes a lot of self-restraint, and what a classy guy." And part of me said, "Wow, I wish he'd shoot back." But I do think that let's just put it this way: President Clinton has been accused of many things. Being a classy guy is not one of them. So, I think it's not surprising that he, as a former president, has been very willing to kind of get down and dirty and in a way that historically I think presidents have tried to be above the fray and be a little more elevated. Particularly, President Bush has done that, and I think been very. And I've had my disagreements with him on policy matters, but I don't see how you could call him anything but a gentleman. Maybe sometimes he's too gentlemanly, but he's definitely been that. And I don't know what to say about. I think he's now the Secretary of Explaining Stuff, as I recall. And all I can say is I always thought that was the job of the president anyhow. But like I said, this president sometimes
Milo,
to me sounds like he's the leader of a foreign country commenting on something that happens in the U.S. while he's visiting the UN or something.
Milo, is it that the president can't speak for himself? As when he was in trouble during the Democratic convention, he sends former President Clinton to make the speech. Is this what it tells us, as that he has more trust in the president explaining him than the president explaining himself?
Oh, I don't think that's the case at all, Armstrong. I think this president is very savvy and very adept at shielding himself from direct accountability. And he delivers the messages he wants delivered to the masses through his mouthpieces, whoever they may be, whether it be Kerry on Syria, Hillary on other issues, or Bill Clinton on ACA. And I think he's done a very deft job of avoiding direct accountability and, most important, recountability on these issues. So I wouldn't underestimate this president. This man came from being a community organizer and a questionably qualified law professor to the presidency of the United States. You can't underestimate him in any setting.
But should we
overestimate? That's an interesting point.
But should we overestimate former President Bill Clinton?
No, I think Bill Clinton is enjoying his post-presidency years, and he's somebody who always enjoyed being on television, and I think he's seizing the opportunities to be heard. And I don't think he's doing it completely unilaterally. but he's never going to. He has never in the past, nor is he likely to ever in the future miss an opportunity to get in front of a camera.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think it'd be a dangerous spot. I'm trying to figure out who I would be more afraid of if I were standing between them and a television camera, Chuck Schumer or Bill Clinton. And it's probably Bill Clinton, but it's close.
You're going to get run over.
That's what yeah, you're going to get trucked. Completely. No, I think that's an interesting point, though, the idea that this president is adept at how he does things. And I think that's part of the way he avoids accountability, which is what you were saying, because he very adeptly just doesn't get involved. Like I said, I think that if he were it's almost like he is the president of another country in terms of the level of interest he takes and the involvement he has in policy in the U.S. Even if you go back, we call it Obamacare, and he calls it Obamacare, and yet he had almost nothing to do with it. He let, it was Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid. He has, so even his signature accomplishment isn't really his accomplishment. I mean, he's very adept at being out of sight, so to speak. I'm not quite sure what he thinks it gets him, because to me it looks like he's not a leader, but I think he's doing it on purpose, so it's not, we just disagree on tactics. To him, he sees an advantage in it. And it might be what was alluded to, that
but George,
in the end, it gives him a distance from everything.
Let me, share this thought with you. One, you can't negate Hillary Clinton's direct role in the Obamacare plan. She played as much a role in it as Harry Reid and Pelosi did. The president is, while he's an ineffective, almost an anemic leader, especially on the international stage, is a very effective delegator to his cabinet and to his division heads, his department heads. And he hasn't been aloof unknowingly. I believe it's been a deliberate strategy to lead from behind, as he calls it. He doesn't apparently understand that the President of the United States isn't somebody who has the option to lead from behind.
If you call that leadership, when do we think we're going to ever turn this economy around?
Well, I mean, for I think the economy is going to limp along as it has for the last 3 or 4 years for the foreseeable future, and it has. To me, it's just it's a function of this president has put in place policies that make it very difficult for the economy to take off. No doubt, the economy will slowly, incrementally, anemically improve. The economy is going to do that. The marketplace is, it's hard to kill it off. Even in the Soviet Union, they had marketplaces that succeeded. But my point is, I just think it's going to continue to be fairly disappointing, anemic progress that will be hard to measure for a lot of people. In other words, for most Americans, it will not feel like progress. And I think that's because when you do to the economy what this president has done to the economy, this is likely to succeed. We haven't, there's only been 2 long, kind of what I would call economic slowdowns. One was after 1929, and this one. And generally they're short-lived, and they're immediately afterwards you have a strong rebound. We haven't had a strong rebound. We're not going to have a strong rebound. It's going to continue to be this anemic, weak economy. And that's because we've done the exact wrong thing in almost every instance. And we continue to do the wrong thing, and we're doubling down on it. So that's my take. But I guess if you ask 100, they say, if you ask 100 different economists, you'll get 101 different opinions.
What opinion, the middle class and the poor are not benefiting from this economy? Milo?
The middle class and the poor, actually, the poor are getting the best deal out of this economy. The middle class are consistently getting screwed, but they always have. But the poor are actually seeing the best lifestyle gains within this economy. The poor and the super rich.
Explain the poor a little more.
Well, I think that the poor who were historically disenfranchised now have a champion in the White House who is, or let me correct that, a perceivable champion in the White House who they believe is focusing on improving their quality of life. This Obamacare For those who had no insurance and had no means to get insurance, those that fall under the threshold and get full subsidy are going to have some form of health care. In their world, that's an improvement. Obama has spent on government programs irresponsibly, and there's more government cheese floating around now than in the days of Johnson or Carter, and that's directly at the hands of this president. The super wealthy. I saw an article last week that showed that of the top 15 billionaires in the United States, the top 15 billionaires in the United States saw 15 to 33% increase in their aggregate net worth during the Obama administration.
Wow. Listen,
Warren Buffett gave away $44 billion a few years ago to the Gates Foundation, and Bill Gates and Belinda Gates donated almost a third of their net worth, and both those individuals are right back. In fact, Gates is at what, $73 billion now?
It's more than you.
I'll take half that and change right now.
Listen, George and Milo, we can't thank you guys enough for joining us for this edition of the show. George, we definitely must have you back. Thank you for what you do. Milo, it goes without saying, much respect and appreciation for you joining us every Tuesday at this time. So we wish you guys the best, and we look forward to another edition of the show.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, and we want to thank the audience so much for joining us. Info at rightsidewire.com. I'm Armstrong Williams, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Hello everyone, this is Armstrong Williams on the right side. Don't speak English.